Hello, I'm Lillian Eve Moore, co-founder of MindLight. Thank you for joining this training today. Today I have two objectives. One is to uplevel your emotional intelligence, and the second is to give you some information about the upcoming certification program that MindLight is offering. So we're calling this certification program a leadership training because we know that leadership is completely dependent on emotional intelligence. In this industry, in the corporate arena, a lot of times leadership is conflated or collapsed with roles versus personality traits, as if being in a leadership role makes you a leader. But that is not true, and I think we all know that that's not true, whether it gets talked about or not. Leadership qualities means being somebody that people want to follow. Qualities like integrity, qualities like courage, creativity, kindness, these kinds of qualities are what inspire people to follow you. And it can create real problems when people are in leadership roles but don't have leadership qualities. So we like to focus on training leaders first because it creates problems in the spinning of the gears when people in those roles don't have leadership qualities and yet people still have to follow them. And I'm sure all of you have seen this in action when you have a manager or a supervisor who is not embodying these qualities and what it is like for their direct reports to have to follow them. So this training we're going to do an overview of what emotional intelligence is, and then we're going to zero in on a focus area that we can really see some transformation in today. So through our research and our conversations with countless HR executives and other people in leadership roles and in people operation roles, we found that there are 4 areas that matter most when it comes to emotional intelligence. The first area is resiliency. So this is your capacity or your organization's capacity or your team's capacity to absorb the impact of emotionally intense moments and without losing your footing, without losing your sense of well-being, without losing your clarity on the goals and your momentum. So things that impact can be organization-wide. It could also be personal. It could be something that's going on at home. And the resiliency of the organization is dependent on the resiliency of the individuals. So that's one area, is training yourself, training your team members, and training your organization in being able to take the impact of emotionally significant moments and not suffer as a result. The second area of focus is de-escalation. So this is when you go beyond just being able to absorb impact yourself, but you are an agent in the organization that enables other people to do that as well. So when somebody comes bursting in, upset, flying off the handle about something, that you're actually able to help them come back to their own center and get back on task. The third area of focus is empathy. Empathy is really my favorite training. It's, in my mind, I think if we all practice these things, we'd have a radically different world that we would be living in. This training teaches you how to understand another person's world so that you can speak to that perspective in a way that they can actually understand you. So it's kind of counterintuitive, and I know a lot of times in our conversations we tend to be more in a battle of who's going to understand who first. Like, I want my agenda understood, or my problems understood, or my communication understood first before I'm willing to listen and understand yours. But in actuality, if you are willing to listen first and get the other person's experience first, then you can speak in a way that another person can actually understand you, and you achieve your objective more efficiently. The fourth focus area is, we call it peak performance, and this is very related to resiliency, but taking it a step further. So this isn't just about recovering from emotional blows, it's actually being able to harness your emotional state to pull it into focus for the task at hand. So whatever it is that you're needing your full attention for, having the power to bring yourself to attention in that way. Bring yourself, your emotions and your mental state, even your physical state, to a place where you can get the job done more joyfully and more efficiently and as a better team member. So today we're going to be focusing on resiliency and peak performance. You can kind of hear through my description of these 4 focus areas that they fall into 2 different categories. Resiliency and peak performance focuses on the inner experience, so the things that you can control just through your own experience of life. And then empathy and de-escalation is the relational practices. So how do we communicate with others, or how do we show up in relationship in a way that is emotionally intelligent? So today we're going to be focusing just on the inner experience. The skills that are required for both of these focus areas are self-awareness and self-determination. So self-awareness, it's not just knowing how you feel or being able to identify emotions, it's also understanding how your mind works and how your mind and your body interact, how they play with each other, so that you can kind of get your hands on the steering wheel of your own emotions. We tend to think about our emotional experience as an effect of the circumstances that we're in. We think that we have a bad day and then we feel bad, but it's actually not. That's actually not the case. And I have an exercise that we can do that will demonstrate that. But first, I want to go into a little bit about how the brain works with emotion, and then how the body plays in that arena as well, so that you can kind of see how that is true, how it's true that you're at any moment able to affect change in your experience of life. So everything that you experience, every bit of information that comes through you, gets filtered through this one question: is it dangerous or is it not dangerous? And if it's dangerous, then the part of your brain that is responsible for your survival, your mammal part of your brain, your monkey brain, your amygdala, comes online. This part of your brain is really good at helping you run fast. It's good at helping you bond with other mammals. It's good at helping you fight, good at helping you seek comfort. It is not good at thinking creatively or helping you listen, or it's not good at supporting you in empathy. It's not good at helping you find your words. The part of your brain that is responsible for all of these things is called your neocortex. It is the newer part of your brain, and it's uniquely human. This is the part of your brain that enables you to learn and retain new information. It's also the part of your brain that is able to imagine futures that are not based on your past. So this is where innovation is housed. And that doesn't just mean innovation like new ideas, but also new responses. So your capacity to be able to respond in a new way that isn't based off of what maybe your dad would have done or your mom would have done, or a sibling interaction, that actually enables you to grow up. This part of your brain is also where your self-awareness is, your ability to look at yourself and say, I'm doing this, and have that degree of separation that allows you to actually be powerful in your choices and how you define yourself and how you direct yourself. So when you are in a stress state, when you experience something that your brain perceives as dangerous, then your amygdala comes online, and your neocortex, the dimmer lights, come on, and you're no longer able to function on that high human functioning plane, and it impacts all of your interactions. So the way that this it's a bit circular in that we filter information from that state of mind. So your brain is telling you that something is dangerous. Your stress hormones start flaring. You've got your adrenals, your cortisol levels raising. So now your heart's beating faster. Your breath is shortening. Your blood sugar, your blood pressure are both raising. You're no longer digesting your food. You're no longer generating new cells. Your blood is no longer flowing to your brain in the same way. It's now flowing to your limbs to prepare you for a fight or to flight. Now, here's the crazy thing, is that now that your body is responding in this way, your mind says, oh, the body's freaking out. That must mean I'm in danger. So there's this feedback loop that's going round and round and round, where your body is saying that there's danger, then your mind is saying that there's danger, then your body's saying that there's danger. And what's happening with your circumstances is that everything that your senses are taking in are now being filtered through this internal feedback loop. So even if what's happening outside of you is not actually dangerous, it doesn't matter to your system. Your system is really only collecting information from your system. So there might have been something external that triggered this little feedback loop. But the feedback loop is really only dependent on itself. It's not dependent on outside stimulation. And outside stimulation might not help at all. And I'm sure that you've all experienced this, where you're upset about something and there's really nothing that anybody can do to make you feel any different because you're self-determining. So I have a little exercise for you that demonstrates this feedback loop between your mind and your body. And you can close your eyes for this. Imagine that in front of you is a lemon. And in your mind's eye, I want you to slice that lemon in half. And then take a half and slice that in half so you have a quarter. You can smell the lemon, you can feel the stickiness on your fingers, the oils and the juices. And then take that quarter and slice it into a wedge. Then in your mind's eye, I want you to pick up that lemon and bring it to your mouth. Smell it, and then bite into it. And feel all the little pockets of juice burst in your mouth. Now you know there's no lemon, but how many of you salivated? Just by imagining a lemon, your body has a response. Just by the lemon being created in your mind, your body has a response as if the lemon is real. And this is the same thing when we have an emotional reaction to something. We'll react as if it's real, and then we'll prove that it's real by our reaction. There must be a lemon there because I salivated. There must be a lemon there because I thought about it. So that feedback loop, it's actually good news because it means that you have a lot more say in your experience than you thought you did, that you don't actually need people's behavior around you to change. You don't actually need for there not to be crisis around you. There can be crisis and you can still have a feedback loop that's working in your favor versus working against you. So that's the good news in this design. There's one other thing that I want to bring up in this arena of self-awareness, and that is that we tend to have a million different things going on internally at any given moment. And because of this, we don't have as much power when it comes to self-determination. When we have 100 different voices going on internally, it's difficult to wrangle them all into one focused area. So again, you can close your eyes for this or just do a quick scan and just notice how many pots are on your stove. How many things are cooking for you right now? Maybe there's things at home, people's schedules, there's soccer practice, or there's meals that need to be cooked, or different questions you've got going on about what you should do in this area of your life. And then at work, do a little scan. How many pots are open? How many things are cooking for you? Back burner thinking about things, worrying about things. Just consider how many things are going on in your internal world. Maybe something's bugging you. Maybe you're excited about something. And they might not be at the forefront of your mind. They might not be taking up a lot of bandwidth, but they're kind of there just chattering in the background. So this is a liability. It's a bit like handling a crowd. When a fire alarm goes off and you've got 100 people that are all distracted and doing their own thing, it's a lot more difficult to get everybody safely out of the building than if you've got 2 people who are all focused on the exact same task. So the practice of being aware of your internal state is really helpful when it comes both to resiliency and peak performance, because you have an attentive audience. Your own mind is an attentive audience. So you have your own attention. You have your own attention so that you can direct that attention intentionally, rather than being like a bunch of kids with ADD, where every time anybody says anything, you have 1,000 different voices that are interpreting it in different ways. Somebody's being offended by it. Somebody's being inspired by it. Somebody's remembering something that happened 10 years ago by what that thing said. If you can learn to be aware of all those different voices in your head, then you can start to bring them all to the present moment. This is why meditation is so very, very valuable and helpful. So that kind of caps up the self-awareness piece. Then there is the self-determination piece. Self-determination is you knowing how you want to feel, where you're wanting to go, and then training in that. So because you know how you work, you're able to train in that. If you're able to imagine a lemon and make yourself salivate, then you can do the same thing with your emotions. You can imagine circumstances that make you feel good to generate good feelings internally, feelings of focus, feelings of optimism, things that support you getting the work done. So let's start with creating a clear foundation. So part of self-determination means that, like I said, you need to have everybody in the same room, meaning all of the different voices in your head kind of centered around the same focus area. This is like our default, your baseline state of being ideally should be one of peaceful coherence. Like your mind and your emotions are all here, right here in the present moment, feeling neutral or nice. We don't need to be feeling excited all the time, but neutral or nice. So that's what we're gonna spend a few minutes just getting us to that neutral or nice all together place. And from this place, you can take hits and not be destabilized. You can get yelled at and still feel fine. You can find out that there's a major deadline popped up out of nowhere and you're fine. From this place, you can also go steps further and actually create flow states or just peak performance states of being that enable you to get results that you never thought were possible. Have conversations go in ways that you're surprising yourself at how easily the words came. So let's start by getting into that baseline feeling of well-being. And this baseline feeling of well-being, regardless of what's going on in your life, this is your birthright. This is your inheritance. You have a right to feel safe in your body, and you have a right to feel like the world is an okay place. If you don't have these very basic things, it starts to get really difficult to get out of bed in the morning. So cultivating this as your baseline is really valuable on every level for your health, for your mental health, and for your work performance. So the way to do this, the way to cultivate this well-being is starting with appreciation. And you can start with appreciation for yourself. We'll play with it a few different ways of getting at the emotion and finding the way that works for you. But let's start with appreciation. And if you can conjure that appreciation for yourself, great. If you can't conjure that appreciation for yourself, then look for something else that appreciates you. This can be a child, a partner, if you believe in God and that feels like a safe entity, then God appreciating you. A pet, if there's a pet in your life, no doubt they appreciate you. See if you can remember what that appreciation feels like. What does it feel like to be appreciated? And actually let that sink into your body. Let your nervous system respond to that thought, to that, to receiving that. If those cues didn't do it for you, you can also think about a time where you were acknowledged by somebody, or you felt somebody shared their appreciation with you verbally, or maybe they did something nice for you in appreciation. And take a deep breath. Come back to that feeling of appreciation. Notice what it feels like to different parts of your body. What does it feel like in your chest to feel appreciated? What does it feel like in your digestive tract to be appreciated? How does it make your skin feel? And notice that your body actually does respond to these visualizations, that you do start to feel different as a result of focusing on that feeling of appreciation. Again, breathe. Feel that appreciation. I'm having you breathe as we're doing this exercise because in that brain-body feedback loop, there's two ways that you can interrupt the feedback loop. One is through your thoughts, and the other is through your body. Emotions are really the conversation between your thoughts and your body. So you can interrupt from either place. You can interrupt physically by taking a deep breath, drinking a glass of water, going for a run, stretching, changing your posture, smiling. Each of these things releases different hormones that reset and give your brain an opportunity to think new thoughts. So when we're thinking these thoughts and we're taking a deep breath, we're interrupting our cycle in more than one way. We're interrupting our cycle in both of the ways that it's possible to interrupt. So coming back to that appreciation. Once you're feeling really stable in that state of being, you're feeling that nice neutral or nice feeling, you can pull up on your screen something that's bugging you. It could be something that is really upsetting. It could be something that is just mildly irritating. It could be work-related. It can be personal. It doesn't matter. Just something that when you did that scan of your system before, something that came up. It's one of the pots that's cooking that isn't feeling the way you really want it to feel. And we're going to practice going back and forth between feeling that feeling of being bugged. Maybe it's a pinprick of an annoyance, or maybe it's a big, gaping, open, painful wound. Either way, let yourself feel that. Maybe it makes your heart beat faster. Maybe it makes you sweat. Maybe it makes your stomach hurt or your head hurt. And then go back to that feeling of appreciation. If you need to use those cues again, you can use those cues. Think about that dog that just loves you unconditionally. And then back to the thing that's bugging you. And we're going to do that a few times. Let yourself feel the thing that's really bothering you. And then let yourself feel that appreciation. That stable, friendly feeling place. And now see if you can have them both at the same time. Can you feel appreciation for yourself and also feel that thing that's bugging you? That appreciation for yourself can fill the whole room. Let it be something that is part of the air that you're breathing and the ground that you're standing on. That state of being is your constant. It's always available to you. And that feeling of pain or frustration or whatever it is being held inside of that experience of appreciation. Great. So that exercise is demonstrating resiliency. And when you're doing that, well, it might seem like kind of a fluffy exercise. You're actually building neural networks. You're building a relationship between your amygdala and your neocortex, a relationship that it's the appropriate relationship where your neocortex is like a parent to your amygdala. Your feelings don't get ignored, they get acknowledged. They get acknowledged with the perspective of your neocortex. And that's what we're doing when we're creating that exercise. You're creating an antidote for yourself internally. Now, you might have felt relief for the pain or frustration that you were feeling just from doing that exercise, but really that's not the point. Because you are going to feel upset sometimes. You are going to get angry. You are going to feel pain. And resiliency isn't a matter of being flatlined and just having the same feeling all the time. But you can have the full range of emotion and also have your footing in well-being, that footing in a basic sense of I'm safe in my body and the world is an okay place. You can have that at the same time. If you can maintain that, then you can still operate from a functional place. You can still maintain composure in your conversations and make good decisions in the workplace. If you're not able to hold on to that basic feeling of well-being, then your amygdala is going to demand that rather than handling the problem, that you feel safe. So you think if there's a crisis at work and you think that you're looking for a solution, if you're coming from a stressful place, your biology demands that you not seek a solution for the problem at work. You're only seeking a solution for the feeling that you have. Your primary directive when you are in a stressed state of mind is to survive. So you're looking for solutions for your survival. Now, even if those two agendas line up, it will cloud your judgment. You won't see the same opportunities. You won't see the same solutions. You're needing something from the solution personally versus just creating a solution, which will limit what occurs to you. It will limit your cognitive function and your creativity and your innovation. If you're coming from that stable place where you don't need anything, you don't need to be rescued, you're feeling fine, then the possibilities for solutions for the actual problem become limitless. Your capacity to see solutions becomes limitless. Okay, so if you were going to take that a step further and actually clarify how you want to feel in that area. So If the thing that you picked that's bugging you is still bugging you, great. If not, then pick a new one. And I want you to consider this thing that's bothering you. What is your desire around it? What are you wishing were different? So rather than focusing on what's not working, focus on what you want instead. So maybe it might feel like this actually might be challenging, because a lot of times we condition ourselves to think that we can't feel better until something outside of us changes, and we don't think what's outside of us can change. So Jerkface says that Jerkface thing to you, and you're not going to feel better until Jerkface isn't a Jerkface anymore, but that's not possible because he is just a Jerkface. So that puts you in a position where you're never going to feel better. So this practice of actually letting yourself want what you want, it conditions your mind, it changes your brain to accept the possibility that there might be a solution. So imagine what it is you want, and it's okay if what you want is different behavior from somebody else. If you want Jerkface to be respectful to you, so consider what it is, the pain that you're feeling. What do you now know that you want because you had that pain? Get clear on the circumstances that you want to be different, and also how you want to feel. Now imagine that coming true. What would that person say to you if they were being respectful? What words might they use? And how would that feel to you? It's okay if this is a little bit clunky. It's okay if you have a hard time imagining it. Just work with yourself a little bit. Until you can really land yourself in the vision or the imagining of your ideal outcome. And let your entire nervous system respond to this imagined reality. Notice how your body feels. So that exercise is demonstrating peak performance, that you're collecting all of the different naggy parts of your brain into one focused direction, towards the direction that you actually want to go. You might think that this is limited to just you feeling better, which I don't know if I have to make a case for why feeling better is so important, but feeling better is really, really, really important. It's hard to function in a productive way if you're not feeling well. So to not to undermine that, but if you think about how it feels for Jerkface, who said that Jerkface thing to you, to try and not be a Jerkface anymore when you call him a Jerkface in your mind every day, it's really challenging to show up for you in a different way. You speak to him like he's a Jerkface. You might think that you don't, but you do. If you have that thought running in your mind, it's coming through. It's coming through in your body language. It's coming through in the way that, the tone that you use, the words that you choose. So when Jerkface stops being Jerkface and he starts being Bob, and you can actually imagine him treating you with respect, and that starts to be real for you, as real as the lemon was that made you salivate, you start speaking to him as somebody who treats you with respect. And that starts to infiltrate into, the de-escalation and the empathy conversation. But I want to let you know that this peak performance stuff, it goes beyond your internal experience, and it creates ripple effects into your relationships. Okay, so that gives you just a little bit of a taste of what kinds of training are available in terms of being able to direct your own emotional state of being and how that state of being is going to impact your relationships and your performance. The certification program that we're offering, it starts in September, and it is a 16-week program. We meet once a week for an hour and a half, and we spend 4 weeks on each focus area. So we spend 4 weeks on resiliency, 4 weeks on de-escalation, 4 weeks on empathy, and 4 weeks on peak performance. At the end of each 4 weeks, you're prepared to lead an on-site training for your team at your own workplace and bring these concepts and practices to your own teams. The training program is it's online, so we meet via Zoom, and you're also set up with practice partners so that you're able to practice these techniques with people who aren't actually in your life. The enrollment closes on September 11th, and the way to enroll is to set up a phone call with me. We're interviewing every single participant. So I'm setting up a link below where you can book your appointment and ask any questions that you have and find out if you would be a good candidate for this program. We're looking for people who have a large role to play in terms of the team dynamics, people who are working and leading other people and have the power to infiltrate with this emotional intelligence into larger systems in the organization. So if that feels like something that that you want to do, want to be, then come find me.